Henchmen, this is part 3. One of the issues with Muslim Brotherhood in the U.S. And Muslim Brotherhood overseas is the funding is coming from the Sunni nations of UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. They're Bahrain, a very wealthy, a huge amount of wealth, and they can pay to have insurgency groups in 39 different countries. Now they can do operations like this one from Yemen. They can run operations in Europe, Charlie Hebdo attacks and so forth. So that is an obvious danger all around the world. But then there's also this danger that Muslim Brotherhood, and there's 4 brothers now that are on these intelligence committees in the U.S. government. There's a real danger that that could be providing leaks to these folks to avoid things like drone strikes or this recent Navy SEAL that was killed. If they know we're coming and everybody's got a gun and all the terrorists dress up as women and children, it makes it obviously much harder for the attack. And this Bill Owen's son obviously was murdered because of this leak here from this group. So that's what I'm saying, is there's so much money coming into the system that it's difficult for politicians who are being supported by Muslim Brotherhood to turn that money down. I guess that's my basic point. And it's easier for politicians who want to single out people that are deplorables. It's harder to turn them down. So this is Andre Carson here. You may know Andre Carson as being one of the Muslim congressmen in the U.S., as well as Keith Ellison. Those are probably 2 of the most famous Muslims in our U.S. Congress. I don't want to say anything wrong about Andre Carson here. He also has experience in Homeland Security, and he sits in the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Again, he accepts quite a bit of money from the Muslim Brotherhood, these Muslim organizations. This is an umbrella organization. It's kind of a uniting of 28 different Muslim organizations in the United States. So money is coming from a lot of different places, and there's no way to vet all 28 different sources of cash that are coming in. So I understand Andre Carson, speaking, in favor of Muslim organizations. He's a Muslim person, that's fine. But what the tendency here, though, is to provide jobs for people like Awan, and Awan, the Awans did work for Andre Carson. So that's where the infiltration comes in, is through political support. Now things like this can happen where people who are potentially have their loyalties lying with Pakistan or with Sunnis or with Shia or with both, depending on who's the highest bidder. That's the problem here in this situation. Also, this is another deplorable situation because he actually worked at a fusion center, I believe, and was one of the 50 state fusion centers. I believe he was in the Indiana one. I think he's from South Indianapolis, where I used to play high school basketball. So I know the neighborhood he's from and so forth. So a good guy. It's hard to turn down that money, I guess. That's my point. And then it leads to situations like this. Also, it leads to situations where you can say we want all instances of radical Islamic terrorism or radical, even the word radical Muslim expunged from the Department of Homeland Security, all of the papers, all of the manuals and so forth. And that's exactly what happened. So again, it's undue influence from people who may not have the same intentions. These folks may not have the same intentions Andre Carson does. I've always been a strong supporter of the Black Muslim movement, Muhammad Ali, etc. That's great, even though I'm Jewish. But this type of outside influence, where people are foreign nationals working for foreign governments, that's where I'm blowing the whistle there. And as I mentioned, Andre Carson's sitting on two of the most sensitive committees in the United States. And here's where the Muslim Brotherhood could start saying guys like George, guys like me who point things out like this, should be on the Homeland Security target list, the watch list, rather than those folks who should be on the list. That's it for this afternoon.